excited. Welcome to Women in Music Marketing. Okay, it's still creeping up, so I'm just gonna wait a minute till the number gets steady. Give in the chat, hi Laura, hi Jade. Cool. Hey Lottie. Okay, we are gonna get started. So everybody, if you wanna go around, this is Women in Music Marketing for everyone who just jumped in. And we're gonna go ahead and just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. Elizabeth, do you wanna kick us off?
Sure. I'm Liz. I live in Philadelphia. I work in digital marketing and strategic e-commerce strategy. Say that 3 times fast. For Universal Music Group, right now I support a bunch of different labels and artist teams. Before this, I was kind of a master of all trades. I'm an alumni of the UMG College Rep program. I've managed artists before, did freelance marketing, music journalism, working security at concerts, pretty much anything I could get my hands on. And now I'm just at UMG.
Nice. All right, Tori, you are up.
Hi, I'm Tori. I am currently an international marketing manager at Columbia Records, and I grew up in, I'm sorry, I'm like going backwards. I grew up in Atlantic City, New Jersey, graduated from Syracuse University, and before I was at Columbia, I was doing digital marketing at Def Jam, and then before that, doing touring at Move Forward Music. So I'm excited to be here.
Nice, awesome. Thank you, Tori. Okay, Geneva, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Geneva. I am currently in New Jersey, where I was mostly raised, but originally from New York. I do international marketing for Elektra Music Group. And before that, I was at Atlantic doing the same thing. And before that, I was doing publicity at Warner Records.
Awesome. Thank you, Geneva. And Sarah, it's all you.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm from San Francisco. I'm currently in LA at Capitol Records on the marketing team. I kind of got into the music industry after getting a master's in music business at Berklee College of Music. And for my undergrad, I studied music as a voice major. And I've been playing music my entire life and wanted to kind of get into amplifying the artist's vision and being part of their creative journey. So here I am.
Thank you, Sarah. Jamila, you're up.
Hi guys, my name is Jamila Wright. I am a digital marketing manager at Atlanta. Then you know I'm the R&B girl. And I am from Atlanta, but moved to New York. But because of quarantine, I'm back in Atlanta to say it. Yay. And you know, just a little background about me. I went to the University of Miami. I interned at Motown with Capitol, and then that's how I ended up at Atlantic after that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamila. Naydeen.
Hey everyone, I'm Naydeen Rodriguez, and I'm a marketing manager at Rock Nation Label, a proud Brooklyn College alumni and overall go-getter with a passion for music. I started my career in radio programming at Power 105, where I landed my internship with the Breakfast Club, and then I moved forward with some network programming, and then I landed an internship there at BET Networks. Shout out to my BET and Power 105 fam. And then from there, you know, graduating from college in 2017, I landed my first position within the industry at Def Jam Recordings, where my friend here, Tori Mccue, I worked alongside with as a production manager, where I, you know, associate produced and also junior commissioned some music videos, short films, and content. And then from Def Jam Recordings, I'm here at Rock Nation Label as a marketing manager, where I definitely feel like this is what I want to do and I want to continue to do. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Naydeen. Okay, so we're going to hop into our first question for all the panelists. What is one career move that you made that got you where you are today? And you can all jump into this one.
I'll start. I didn't want to start, but I'll do it. When I was in college, a long, crazy turn of events led me to basically leading my own department at a very, very tiny little startup. And I started working as an intern, and then just like got more and more responsibility, worked my way up really fast. And it was honestly like the most boring work I possibly could be doing. It was like writing website and SEO code, like fall asleep at your desk kind of work. But at 20 years old, I was making like a full salary. And it was great. And then the chance to intern for UMG came up like 3 years ago, I guess. And at the time, it was a job offer to make the PA minimum wage, which is $7.25. So I took a lot of guts to drop that full-time job, and I was paying for everything myself, and everyone I asked told me not to do it. They were like, you're stupid. And I just kept saying, like, you don't know the industry. Like, it's where I want to be. And everyone told me not to, but dropping everything for that $7 an hour job, like, got me my full-time job. So looking back, I'm so thankful that I had the guts to do that, because I'm not a risky person with financials at all, but it paid off. So if anyone here is waiting to take the risk, just do it. I promise it will work.
It's great advice.
Definitely agree with you, Elizabeth, on taking risks. And that's something that I can definitely align with in my career. And just the moves that I've made is, just betting on myself is really important. And just having faith, because a lot of the times you begin in a position that you don't necessarily want to pursue, but it is a journey, and, you can't be in a rush to get nowhere fast. So just, betting on myself, just landing that position at Def Jam as a production manager, as I literally was like a month away from graduation. And I'm just like, I love visuals. I love music videos. I'm really skilled when it comes to photography, but essentially I don't know if I can do production management, but the person that hired me believed in me enough that I can get it done. And she kind of threw me in the fire. And I just, went in there guns blazing and figured everything out, not only by myself, but also with my peers and my coworkers. So, and that's the same thing, kind of jumping into marketing management, is like, aside from education, you're not going to know unless you have the experience, and if you really believe in yourself and you have that strong team around you that's going to be there when you fall, or when you're learning, or when you're contributing to something. And again, it's just about like betting on yourself and moving forward, and just understanding that everything is a journey, and don't try to go nowhere fast.
Naydeen, I really like what you said. Like, I think for me, it wasn't one specific move. It was more of a series of events that helped me get to where I am. I remember, like, right out of school, I remember not knowing anything about the music industry, but I was so passionate about it. And I couldn't afford to buy books, or like, I didn't know anyone. So I literally just got a library membership, and I would walk to the library and I would clear the shelves and take home every single music business book I could possibly get my hands on. And I would go home and I would study. And I worked like a regular 9 to 5 at a tech company, which was completely unrelated to music business, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I basically just studied and saved up for grad school. And then after school, I just applied that same posture of like learning everything I possibly could, getting in touch with everyone I possibly could. During grad school, I just networked with the professors, guest lecturers, panelists, anyone who I could get my hands on who could listen to me. And once I kind of made that connection or made those relationships, it ended up being one of my old professors that referred me for an internship at Interscope, which is how I kind of got into the music industry.
Awesome.
Just to kind of, I had a similar experience with kind of starting off not really in music, and then jumping in and out of like the industry in several ways. But when I was in college, my parents, I'm from South Jersey, which is quite far away from New York City where all the internships were. And my parents, they weren't really trying to like pay for my rent or anything up there. So I had to kind of like find a way to do that from South Jersey. And one of my ways was I worked at a concert venue at a casino, which is the beautiful part about being from Atlantic City. It's like a sort of exciting city. So one of the casino was Revel, and it was a really popular casino that year because they had just opened. They were well known for like having 3 nights of Beyonce not on tour, Kanye West, like maybe I think like 2 nights twice. And I actually worked one of the Kanye West shows, which was cool because I got paid time and a half basically to watch Kanye. But one of the things that I was doing was working the guest list. And that was kind of my first, I guess, exposure to the whole concept of like being able to like work as a journalist, a music journalist, and getting paid to like watch music and everything. So that kind of, so one of the journalists I remember was Complex, and that kind of pivoted me into like basically stalking a bunch of people at Complex and trying to get an internship, which I eventually did, which was like my first like proper like music job, and kind of made me sure that I wanted to work in music.
Love that.
I think for me, it was making the decision to go back and get my master's after undergrad. I had interned and was very naive and thinking like, you do an internship, you graduate, you get a job, and that's not what happened to me. So I was kind of given an ultimatum of going back to school or getting a government job, which for whatever reason kind of felt like giving up to me. So I went back for my master's and just really kind of like put my head in the books, learned everything I could, did more internships, networked harder than I did as an undergrad. And it just led to lifelong connections that I still have that kind of led me to where I am. After I graduated with my master's, I ended up getting a temp position at Warner Records in publicity. And that was like my foot in the door. And at the time, it was very much just like, I want to work in music. I didn't know exactly what I want to do, but I'll try anything. So, and my background in internship was kind of all over the place. I did digital marketing, I did brand partnerships, radio promo. So it was like, okay, this is another thing I can learn, figure it out from there. And I quickly learned that I'm not a publicity person. So when I was kind of like getting to the crossroads of deciding whether or not I should stay or pursue something else, I was told about two opportunities, one in digital, but on the e-commerce side, and one in international marketing. And at first I was like, well, I interned in digital. I love digital. I'm going to do digital. And then I went home and read the description for international marketing. It was like, no, actually, this is everything I ever wanted to do in music, but didn't know I could do. And applied, interviewed, and here I am today, still doing international marketing.
For me, I don't think there was like one thing in particular. Like being from the South, there is not a lot of like music industry opportunities. I went from Atlanta to Miami. Like I was getting farther and farther away from New York and LA. And so I broke in basically through DMing people on Instagram and Twitter. Like my first internship was working for thisisrnb.com, and I would write about all the new R&B music that would come out, and I got to interview a lot of my favorite artists. And from there, that helped me actually get an internship at Motown, which I did right after college. So I went like Atlanta, Miami, straight to LA. And then I was like, okay, I kind of want to go back to Atlanta because that's where the music industry is like bubbling, but there wasn't like business jobs. It was like either I work at the recording studio or I work at like a venue, and I didn't want to do either. So I kind of just stayed in touch with people I met in LA, and also like my intern class. And that helped me get my job at Atlantic. Someone that was working at Capitol referred me to Atlantic, and I got my job there, and I started as an assistant in digital marketing. I kind of knew what I was doing, not really, but the like more I got into it, the more I realized this is what I want to do. I love the internet, and let's break some artists. So that's how we got here.
Amazing. I love all of your journeys. They're so different, which is great. It's good everyone gets to hear a different side of breaking into the industry. So on to our next question. Let's go on to this one. How has music marketing changed in the digital world?
I think,
go
ahead.
Okay, I mean, to start, like music marketing now is very much so dependent on like the artist being a person and having a story. Like before, they could be mysterious and you were like, okay, cool. But fans want to be able to connect with them. They want to be able to feel like they could be your friend or, you know, your cousin or whoever. And so a lot of what I do is trying to get artists to interact with their fans, engage with their fans, and also to like show that they have a personality. And it doesn't have to be the biggest, brightest like Cardi B. It could be something small, like, I don't know if you guys know who Giveon is, but like you can tell his personality through his little lives where he plays new music and he just kind of answers a few questions. He's not like crazy over the top. But you know, those are the types of things I'm trying to do. And I think that's what's making music, you know, connect better in the digital age.
Jamila, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was just going to say that fans smell anything disingenuous, and it's important that whatever story you're telling is authentic to the brand or true to what the artist aligns with. And we have to remember that the digital world is ever evolving and it's extremely saturated. So we have to think about the quality of the content and what's coming out, and are artists saying something important, and are they saying something that resonates with the people in a strong way, or at least in some way. And we have to ask these questions before we proceed with any campaign, because people are thrown an incredible amount of content on a daily basis. So whatever you're saying has to stand out.
And it's also the way that you present the content. There's so many different opportunities and platforms that is existing. You know, everything is digital now, especially with COVID. So it's like, you know, there's no touring. So you have a lot of live performances, and you want to make sure that you're not oversaturating what you are putting out there. There's so many different creative ways to tell that story and that narrative, to Sarah and Jamila's point, with just, you know, curating small content pieces, you know, performing, you know, content is king. So you have to be able to create your own content as an artist now. So that's really important as well. So it's like also creating opportunities, like instead of doing a simple listening party at a venue, obviously we want to try to do it on Zoom, but there's other platforms which connects music streaming and user, where you can create that experience and still generate streams and consumption. You just have to be innovative and find those niches.
And just to kind of like tap into what everyone has been saying is, you know, now because everything is online, it's so much more accessible to people around the world, which is like a huge reason why I jumped over from working digital at Def Jam to international, because while I was doing digital, you know, some of the campaigns I worked on were Danny Lay, Cash Page, Jeezy, Fabulous, and all these are artists that, like, you know, I was like, you know, literally in the seeds looking at the comments and seeing, like, you know, people from different countries demanding content, demanding specialized, demanding touring to go there, demanding different things. And then in particular, that I remember was, you know, there was I believe it was a member of Blackpink, which is a K-pop band, and one of the members just randomly danced to a Danny Lay song called Craven. And I remember we weren't really that like privy to K-pop as being like a market for her, but all of a sudden we saw streams go crazy randomly in like Asia, and we're like, wait, what? And so that kind of really showed that, you know, rap music, hip hop music, R&B has a global reach now, and, you know, it's all about just serving those fans too.
It's a great perspective.
I think since COVID, I think everyone in digital would agree with me that like we were saying before we went live, like I've been so much busier than usual, just because before it was a lot harder to get digital things pushed through. Like even if you would ask an artist, like, go on Instagram Live for 5 minutes, they'd be like, I'm touring, like I'm busy, you know, it's like not a priority for me. And now it's completely flipped, where they're like begging to get content out there. Like they're all of a sudden really interested in like shooting YouTube series and stuff like that, where before it was kind of harder to get artist buy-in. So it's been really great for me to see that kind of switch, because at some points it was like pretty discouraging, like making huge like digital campaigns, and the artist was like, that's cool, but like I'm on tour, so like I'm not going to record anything, like I'm busy. So I think it's been great that the artists have been more interactive in my experience since COVID. That's one like really good takeaway that's been changing for me personally.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move to the next question. So people often talk about the challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated industry, but what are some of the positives of being a woman in music marketing?
I'm going to start this one because I love this question. Women women are amazing, but first of all. Second of all, women are incredibly perceptive, especially of the emotional aspects of projects. And I think what's really amazing is that we have to remember that artists are handing over a vulnerable piece of work that is an extension of their emotional being. And to recognize, listen, and comprehend their craft, like, we as women have a unique advantage and vantage point of being able to read between the lines in that regard. And I also think we're not afraid to exercise empathy, and that helps us understand what it's like to be in other people's shoes, and others in this case would be fans and listeners or partners. And that's key in the foundation of marketing.
Definitely agree with what Sarah said. Offering another perspective, I feel like, is the greatest benefit of being a woman in marketing. And then even outside of that, this kind of, I'm noticing a lot in the industry too, is kind of built-in sisterhood, where it's kind of like a built-in support system, like things like this. The company I work for, we have a whole group of women, and we get together and we just talk about music stuff, or we just check in on each other. And it's really cool to kind of have that like naturally built in.
That's what I was going to say. Just the camaraderie. I feel like you make friends easier because people have a lot of common interests and traits, like this panel, for example.
Love to hear that.
I think for me, some of the positives of being a woman in a male-dominated industry is that there's a lot of room to shine, right? Us women, we're leaders, you know. We know what we represent. You know, we have thick skin because you need that, especially in this industry, and we work 3 times as hard. So, you know, it may be challenging in some instances because your voice may not be heard in certain scenarios, but you know, your presence will be felt. And if you do things with grace and poise, and you continue to move forward, you know, you're going to definitely stand in the front lines. And I think for us women, it gives us the opportunity to shine.
And I would say that like a positive to being a woman in a male dominated industry is, as women, we can kind of really be fans of anything without like kind of any inhibition. Like there's nothing that's going to challenge who we are, how we, you know, really anything if we are kind of, you know, into a certain type of music. Granted, like if you're working in a certain type of music, people may have certain perceptions of you based on your race and how you look and XYZ, but like as a fan, I really think a lot of music is catered for women. Like, you know, a Kendrick Lamar lyric in a Drake song always stands out to me when he talks about women being kind of like the tastemakers for all the music that men make. And I always think about that because like at the end of the day, like that's the way the world works. Like the guys are always going to kind of go where the girls go, and we get to kind of dictate that when we're in the industry.
That is a good one.
I think for me, like the positive of being a woman in this industry is that, I mean, echoing what everybody else says, I think we add a human element to it. I think a lot of times people look at artists as like just a product and a thing we have to sell and try to break or whatever. But at the end of the day, these people are humans, and like with all of these like mental health issues happening in the industry and like social justice issues, we kind of help intertwine that into the artists and their music so that they have a message and that they are standing for something. I mean, some people do not stand for anything, they don't care. But the ones that do, it's just really fulfilling to like have that support system and to be able to help them get that message across.
Amazing. Well, thank you all. Those were great answers. Really makes it look great being a woman in a male-dominated industry. So I love that flip. So our next question is a little bit of a different side of things. What is one setback that you've overcame in the music industry?
I'm trying to think.
That's good. If you have to think.
This is a good question.
Right. Anybody?
I can start. I like really can't place my finger on like one event, but I would say just like a topic that I really struggled with and still do is work-life balance, especially like in my college days and as a young adult now. Like I really had no concept. I was just a yes man or woman to anything anyone asked me. And then one day I looked up and I was like, how do I have 3 jobs and I'm going to school full time and I'm managing an artist? Like, and I just had to like have a talk with myself and basically be like, this is your life. Like, it's not everyone's trying to get your attention. You know, you can turn off your computer, you can turn off Instagram, all that stuff. And still to this day, I really struggle with it, not letting the industry control my view of myself and my mental health. And although it's a really hard conversation to have, I always make sure I speak up and have it in places like these or one-on-one, because no one warned me. When I was going into this, they'd be like, oh, you're gonna, you know, like have a lot of sleepless nights and stuff. But it was like beyond sleepless nights. So I always say, put yourself first. Be a no man sometimes. I mean, you don't have to like stay up all night trying to like cram in to impress everyone. Like take some time to yourself. Don't push yourself too hard.
I had a setback, but it was a little bit more of like a relational aspect. I had an unfortunate incident where I had a colleague who had her own set of issues speak poorly of me and to my team behind my back. And it affected my work environment to a degree where it surprisingly affected my personal morale and the work that I did. And this is before I was fully secure in the music industry. And I felt like her words were gonna truly like ruin my reputation. And I remember driving past the Capitol Records building in Hollywood and I was like crying and I was like, I'm never gonna be able to work in that building. And I was just, I thought that my dream of working there was dead. And long story short, everything she said about me wasn't true. And I'm working there now, obviously, but I think the minute that I realized that someone's words about me that wasn't accurate and had no reflection on the reality of my work ethic or my competency, it had no weight. And I lean on the people who could vouch for my character. And I basically moved forward acting as if that never happened. And when I think about that story, like obviously in the moment it was horrible, but the beautiful thing about setbacks is that we can wield those experiences to become some of our greatest motivators and tools in our professional career. And now I always speak well of my colleagues, like, and I'm always careful about the words that I use. And it's so important about what kind of, what topics you're bringing into your work environment and how you speak about people behind their back.
Anyone else have a setback you want to share?
I would say that a big setback for me was right after college. I had just been off of my lovely complex internship and I was excited, but I realized that I didn't really want to be a journalist. I just was very not confident in my writing and blah, blah, blah. And I found out that I loved marketing, but you know, the job market was not in my honor. So I ended up having to take a job in book publishing, which was completely different industry. And, you know, I ended up spending 3 years there, which is an eternity in like music industry years, but I was still fairly young, luckily. And about a year and a half into working in book publishing, I was really like, you know, you see all of your friends. I had a lot of music friends that were doing their thing in various kind of, whether it's writing, PR, all these things. And I was sitting here like, you know, literally, it was a useful job skills wise because it was like project management. But I decided to kind of take a chance and intern on top of having a full-time job. And that was what I kind of ended up pivoting me into eventually being full-time for that company and having 2 jobs and learning how to balance like a million things at once. And also meeting a ton of people because that job was Move Forward Music and I was working in touring and I was, you know, working the doors, the guest list, interacting with artists and helping them to kind of make sure they had everything on in the green room and all that type of stuff. So eventually, you know, just that, but I do remember feeling really trapped, like I wasn't going to really get and break into this business and that I kind of wasted a lot of time, but, you know, it ended up working out because I just really went for it.
A good lesson. Anyone else? Anyone else wanna know? Okay, awesome. Okay, then we're going to move into our last question. What is some advice that you have for young women who want to enter the world of music marketing?
Don't underestimate the importance of being a kind and genuine person. I feel like at the end of the day, like if you're not that, people aren't going to want to put up with you. People aren't going to want to work with you, be it on the label side or artist side. But that's not to say like to let people walk all over you and not to speak up for yourself, but always come from a place of like kindness and respect.
And, just understanding that you're always going to be a student no matter what. You always have to be open to learning. That means not only just being up to date with cultural events or what's going on in your timeline, but also with, business tech trends, understanding what's going on within the industry, what is the executive shuffles, who's going where, and also what are some innovative opportunities that's out there that you can merge with your campaigns. And that's also just, staying informed also includes just, signing up to newsletters, reading articles, going to these industry Zoom listening right now. And I see a lot of people on the webinar chat, just networking, which is really good, and connecting and just being open. And then just as an overall woman, not only just in music marketing, because I see some people in our chat that's also producers and interested in learning about other areas in the industry, just know yourself, align yourself, your passion and your purpose, and always stand firm. And as I said before, be graceful at all times and take chances. Bet on yourself and support others with a full heart.
I agree. Keep learning. Never stop learning. I think I'm constantly, and I'm sure all of us are, we're constantly still asking questions about our day-to-day job. I'm still learning from female executives and how they handle difficult situations and how they navigate a male-dominated industry, and how they use their intellect to get what they need done. And even platforms like Amethyst, like this is a really valuable opportunity to share experiences. And I know for a fact that after this, we'll all be encouraged and listeners will be encouraged because we're all learning from each other, and just take advantage of opportunities to learn in general.
Copying what everyone else said, I thought about this a lot, like thinking what helped me the most. And my number one piece of advice would be just to pay attention, keep up on new platforms, have your eyes everywhere. And if you see your favorite artist or like someone you follow on LinkedIn doing a cool campaign on a website or app you've never heard about, download it, pay the $5 fee to watch the live stream or whatever it is, and just research it. If someone says a word or artist or a campaign name that you're not familiar with, write it down and Google it after a meeting. And next time you'll be able to say something about it. Little stuff like that. Things like checking out like your For You page on TikTok, like that kind of stuff, all those simple. Finding anything that you can tie the artist or yourself, if you're working on yourself, to any trend that you can tie yourself to in an authentic and genuine way. You're going to look like a super genius if you bring that to your boss. Like, I'm sure we all like brought TikTok ideas to the table months ago and people looked at us like we were crazy people. Like they were like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. So like being the one that breaks TikTok in your agency, like you would look like the golden girl.
That's a good one too.
I want to go. So I think the best advice I could give is to remember that nothing is permanent. I think growing up and like going through this industry, we hit a lot of walls and we get really frustrated with things, with artists, with teams, with your like ranking and position in a building. And that's not like the end all be all. If you feel like you've outgrown something, you can move. If you feel like something isn't working in a marketing plan, you can pivot and try something new. And I think that's really, really important because as somebody that has anxiety, it's hard to like deal with when things go wrong. And as just millennials, I think we get really frustrated in our heads and we can just gotta like let go. It's not permanent and you can move forward and you will move forward.
And I would say my advice would be to not be afraid to be yourself. I mean, I think there's like a ton of, you know, depending on where, no matter where you work, you're always kind of like looking on social media and thinking you need to look a certain way, you need to act a certain way, you need to be at certain places because, you know, you're a homebody and you like to be at home and everyone's out. Like, you know, be yourself, because as long as you put your head down and do the work, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, you could sit there, like no one ever expected, you know, me to kind of be the perfect person to work Jeezy's digital campaign, but you know, all it took was like my ideas, and they shined louder than any perception. And also, more importantly, is if there's more different types of women in this industry, then there's another girl out there who's just like you, who like wants to see someone like her in those places. So yeah, just be yourself.
That is so important, Tori.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for women too, it's so hard to like feel like you gotta compare us to like everyone, and especially like, you know, I work largely in the hip hop and R&B space, and it's just like, you know, it's tough, but trust me, like literally, you'll feel so much better just being yourself.
I love that. You never know who's watching you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
very true.
Everyone go? Okay, well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in with us, and thank you to our amazing panelists. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Amethyst Collab. There will be a recap of this if you just want to soak in the information again on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to that too. And thank you, everyone. Have a good night.